more than 100K to developers anywhere in the world. Why?
Wow.
People don't buy skills, they buy degrees.
What do you think students should focus on in their resume? Because since you are using AI for hiring, what does AI like better? Hiring and college education has been broken. Earlier in 1970s, 80s in the US, what used to happen was कि कोई भी $20,000-30,000 का loan लेके tech job ले सकता है, which is $50,000 paying the first year. So you had a 30K return on the loan from the first year when you pursue college degree. But now you see the drop in college enrollment because this entire process, entire college degree and entire way we get jobs right now is broken because what's happening in the US is कि federal government funds your loan if you go to a college university. चाहे आप community college जाओ which is ranked 2000 or if you go to a university which is ranked let's say 1 or 2 MIT Harvard, they still give you student loans. So that's why there has been inflation in college education but return has gone down. So let's talk to Ayush about hiring process because he does hiring using AI on Pesto and he doesn't charge a single dollar to engineers and finds the best candidate for companies using Pesto tech. So hi Ayush, can you please introduce yourself?
Hey, yeah, I'm Ayush. I'm trying to build a future of hiring. I used to run an education company before, and then I realized that, education has to be offline. COVID ended that for us, and we had to go online. And I don't believe in online education delivering value unless it's free. I'm now building a marketplace where companies can easily find talent abroad. I feel there is talent all over the world. Talent is universal, but opportunity is not. And at Pesto, we are trying to make opportunities universally accessible to people in countries like Ukraine, India, Brazil, so on and so forth.
Good news, dosto. We recently crossed 70 plus admits for students studying abroad with Fly with Sing powered by Admit Card. And there are only few consultancies which are AIRC credited by America. And I can proudly say we are one of them. And first of all, we give you discounts whether you want to take Duolingo English test or any English proficiency test for your study abroad journey. And we help you shortlisting the best scholarships for universities in US, Canada, wherever you want to study. So go ahead, check out all the free resources, including letters of recommendations, transcripts on the flywithsing.com website, plus get an opportunity for a call back immediately. Go check out.
And yeah, the hype for remote jobs has increased since the first time you released and launched Pesto Tech. Everyone in India talks about remote hiring. Do you think the hype of remote jobs have increased or decreased? Because recently Amazon shared that they want to make it mandatory 5 days a week and you tweeted about it. What do you think?
So I think it's not going to be my way or highway. Look, different things work for different people, right? I feel that when we started, I remember doing market research and there were only 180 companies I could find that were remote. And it was just so hard to find companies that were remote at the time. And of course, we had GitLab, Zapier, and some other companies, Doist, doing incredible things remotely. But it wasn't the norm, really. So when I told people about remote work, they all told me that you have gone crazy and you should do something else. You're sharp, etc. You can do well. Just don't go after remote work. And, I kind of at that time, doing things which people told me not to. So I started digging deeper into remote work. And I feel remote work is here to stay for sure. Because when COVID happened, the entire world was remote, right? Imagine billions of people working remote. Now, when the entire world was remote, when COVID went away, not everybody could adjust and could learn how to work remote, right? Because working remote is actually very difficult. And telling all the companies that suddenly you have to work remote, of course, their culture can't change overnight. Of course, their methods can't change, their processes can't change overnight. So a lot of them had a bad experience. So I feel that when COVID came back, a lot of these people came back to working in office. And I also have a preference personally to work from office. But if I'm working from office, does that mean I'm not remote? Maybe not. Why do people think remote work is work from home? It's not. If you're a 50 people team, you could have 5 offices, 10 people each, different places, and collaborate perfectly, right? So I think a lot of people after COVID ended started enjoying in-person work, including me. I love working in office right now. But will I let go of the benefits of remote work? I don't think so. So I think a lot of people will get back because a lot of companies can't adopt quickly, and we will have in the next 5 years talent who would want to be remote because they can and they've learned. And a lot of people will learn, a lot of education will happen to all of these companies because of which a lot of people may come back, many won't. But again, we will have these segments, right? People who like working remote and people who don't, and that's totally fine, right? It doesn't have to work for everyone.
Absolutely. I think I resonate with this a lot because our company encourages us that you have the freedom to go to different branches of Microsoft, let's say New York, India. Like you take permission and maybe you can get an opportunity to work there. It's about, or at the end of the day, where you feel most productive. But I think the biggest challenge you mentioned with Pesto is like many people argue that innovation has only happened when people come together. And when you were starting Pesto, how did you convince the investors that, yeah, innovation can happen remotely as well?
I mean, we were not remote at that time, right? And I feel like when you're starting a new company, it can be done if you're a 5 people, 10 people team, right? You could still like build a company remotely and be successful, but it will take like a lot of effort, knowledge of how to do it remotely, and a lot of conscious effort, right? So you have to remember that startups don't succeed by just being productive. Startups succeed with the passion of founders and that energy which needs to go to the rest of the team. And being in office acts as a forcing function for a lot of things, a lot of other things apart from just work. The vision gets translated to everybody and things like that, right? So I think like it's different for startups, right? But when it comes to enterprises, let's say, right? So let's take up any random bank. How many offices do you think Morgan Stanley would have? More than 10 offices, let's say, right?
Yes.
Or tens of offices. And all of these teams are collaborating and working with each other, right? So I feel like if that can be done, people will learn how to slowly break it down and reach the individual level. But yeah, I think like, so when we have startups working in person, this energy, this momentum that you have to build, you have to be a force of nature. You're going against all odds, against companies that are probably huge. You need a lot more than productivity, right? So I think it can be done remotely, but being in office acts as a forcing function, so a lot of people might just enjoy doing that. But I think as more and more people learn how to do things remotely and how to like change their culture to, like be remote first, it's gonna only get more adoption from here.
And now in this whole process, आप AI बहुत use करते हो, right? How do you think the accuracy of AI has been for you, for the B2B customers and for the engineers which are chosen automatically using AI for the B2B companies you're partnering with?
Oh, it's absolutely magical. The new product that you have built, we only have a couple of customers for that. We are not working with a lot of customers. These two customers are, of course, like large customers. And I feel they are hiring like every third person they interview right now. And I'm not sure if I can name them, but yeah, it's one of the largest AI companies in the Bay Area right now. And I feel like it's quite magical. I would say it hasn't replaced human interviews just yet. Like our systems, we want to be like really, really high on quality. We were not able to completely remove the human interviewer from the system. And I think that's not happening yet, but we are able to reduce the time from, like a human interviewer to be like 10 minutes top to review every candidate, right? Less than 10 minutes. And sometimes it's like 5 to 7 minutes. So we average out around 7. And I think that just like makes things so much more efficient. So I'm excited to build this, excited to give this to more customers. And I'm just hoping that the future models just keep the pace at which they're getting better. The future models basically reach at a place where our system can basically automatically interview people and we are able to remove humans from the system. And I feel that's just going to get rid of all recruitment companies in the world. Like I feel, if you are a large recruitment shop and you're helping people hire engineers, they're charging them a recruiting fee, we will kill you. I'm not joking. It's bound to happen, right? If not Pesto, somebody else will. But yeah, I don't see recruitment companies for hiring engineers. I would always trust an AI company to do that for me.
Yeah, अब questions क्या पूछते हो? Because yeah, hiring is so time consuming. I spent 6 hours in doing at Meta, Google, all the big tech we can name. People spend almost whole day. It's such a draining process. So how do you like hire people with just 10 minutes?
Oh, no, it's not 10 minutes, right? The interview is much longer. It's hours of interview, but you're able to review that in 10 minutes, and it's limited to the technical capability, right? So we're training the model to do a few things, right? One is to understand job description and figure out what capabilities are needed to be a fit for this role, right? And as we are, seeing more and more job descriptions and people getting shortlisted, we're getting a sense of, what works. And on top of that, we had to train the model to understand resumes from different parts of the world, right? Like a human recruiter can always understand resumes from wherever they are, right? Like from a particular region. If I had a recruiter in SF, they would understand all US companies, maybe not sort of East Coast companies. If I had somebody in Bangalore, they would understand all Bangalore companies, but not Delhi companies, let's say, or definitely not Ukraine companies, right? So I think just training the model to understand resumes from all over helps us get the top 1% resumes by shortlisting what are good people, right? And look at the right signals, right? For example, if a bank is hiring from us, they will be given developers who have worked at a bank before because they understand compliance, they understand a lot of other things, which is apart from their work, right? So they would have a preference to hire them. Similarly, if I'm running a startup and I want to hire an engineer, I would not hire like an ex Google or an ex like some fancy brand because they just don't know what it is like to work at a startup. It's a lot more ownership and you need to do a lot of things break. And honestly, you might not enjoy that, right? So I think working at Stripe today and working at Stripe 10 years ago has two different meanings. So we're training the model to understand these differences, these nuances on resumes across the world. So it kind of like shortlists the best people and then it interviews them, right? It dynamically generates questions, which our customers can of course change, but it generates questions and then it interviews them for 90 minutes. And then it generates a whole report and lines up a 15-minute call with whatever customers we have. And then it's their call. If they like the vibe, if they like culturally, is this person aligned? The vibe check is hard to automate, but I think AI is becoming incredibly capable to be able to judge whose technical skills are good and whose are not.
I think it saves a lot of time to your customers and all the companies you're partnering with, because I think when in big tech, a candidate is interviewed, let's say 6 to 7 rounds, it takes almost 2 weeks to judge the candidate, go through a round table.
So 2 weeks is minimum.
Yeah, minimum, exactly.
100%.
Yeah, and you are able to like give the feedback immediately, and then the company can do a vibe check and see the score and hire immediately. It's instant.
Oh yeah. Like the value prop is very simple. If we have a customer who we're chatting with, they need to hire like 1,000 engineers, and that requires like 7 to 10 hours of engineering interview bandwidth from their team. And if you're able to reduce that 7 to 10 hours of interviewing bandwidth to like 2 to 3 hours, that's significant amount of value which is being created for them, right, from the software. So I think, we are doing our best, taking a stab at this opportunity. I'm sure a lot of other people are, but that's the opportunity at play, and we're excited.
What do you think students should focus on in their resume? Because since you are using AI for hiring, what should they focus on skills particularly? As a lot of things are going to be happening with AI, and what does AI like better in a candidate?
I would say that's not the right way to think about it. I'll share how people should really think about it. I feel that skills are becoming more and more measurable, right? As AI shift happens, people who can evolve the fastest will get insanely benefited from this, right? Because the whole world is changing, right? Like the way we do things, all systems are up to be challenged, right? It is the next few years are going to be the years to be creative and to really, I hate rules and I love changing rules and, the rules of the game, right? I love changing them. And I feel that next 5 years is the best time to do that because, the playground is changing, right? So when the playground is changing, the rules are up for grabs, right? So I think It's a great opportunity to be changing rules, and I feel people should be creative. And when it comes to trying to get jobs, look, I have been so passionate about taking opportunities to places where talent exists, and remote work has been so fundamental to making that happen. I have been doing this since 2017 in different ways. I try to like educate people, do this, but at the really core of it, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to like really make opportunities accessible, right? And right now, we have a platform. We are using AI to curate people for companies who are there. There are over 50 to 60 remote job positions at Pesto. Each one of them paying more than 100K to developers anywhere in the world, right?
Wow.
And I feel really happy about it because less than a few years ago, this was just like unimaginable for me. And every week, I think next week, we're expecting to place like maybe 7 to 10 people in 100K plus jobs from the platform. And I feel like that's what really gets me going, right? That how many, like, okay, we can help people get jobs, but how many jobs we can get which are truly global in nature, right? That's what really keeps me going. I feel that skills are going to become more and more measurable. Work is going to become more and more measurable, and people will not care where are you, right? Or let's say half of them won't care where are you. The other half will care where you are, and that's okay. But we will have significant number of people who won't care where you are, and I would say now is the time to be authentic. And all AI interviews, AI ways of curation is to help companies find people who are authentic and who are good, right? So if I were you, I would focus on being authentic and I would focus on being good. If you are good, all of these processes are being designed to help companies find you better, right? And I think we'll get there, right? Because it's becoming more and more. So I think like people should just build something they should just solve more interesting problems and things like that, and things will take care of itself. And there are new jobs which will emerge, right? Like it's just good to keep a tab on them and figure out where the world is headed. But I'm really excited about the mission which I've been on for like almost not a decade, but 6 years or so, and I see that happening or starting to happen in a lot more ways than I thought was possible, and it's exciting, right? And I would highly recommend people to not, I know that there are so many platforms which are going to use AI to write better resumes, AI to help you cheat, and a million other things. Don't do any of that. Be authentic, right? All of these AI tools are being built to help companies find people who deserve to be found, right? So I would focus on learning and being actually good because everybody is solving to find you, right? And I agree it's not efficient. We are also in beta. We have tons of things which are broken. We are trying to solve the same problem, but I think in the next couple of years, I'll be glad if we do it. And I think I'm confident that we'll have a product which does this very efficiently. But I know for sure that there are many other people like Pesto who will try to go on the same problem statement. And it's nice for everybody, right? Nice for the open market, nice for people to be found, and nice for talent in many different parts of the world, and they will get found. So I'm really excited for that time.
Very well said, because the rate of change in our society has increased. What used to happen in 10 years, the number of changes that used to happen in 10 years has decreased to maybe like 1 year. And in next 40 years, what we see in 2 years will happen in just few days. So we need to be faster at adapting and more authentic, right?
Absolutely. And one of the things which since you spoke about Novel, I love Novel and so many other things, of course, like who doesn't? But one of the things Novel says is that if you know how to build, learn how to sell it. If you know how to sell, learn how to build. Because if you know both these things, you are unstoppable. Now, he said this years ago. I'm not sure when. I just feel that this thing has just become like, it's just going to go to the next level. Like, I know so many two people teams which are doing millions in revenue, right? That's way better than having whatever job, right? Um, so I feel like if, as an individual, you can learn how to build and sell, watch out the indie maker community, people building their own things, building software which can be useful, leveraging AI in so many ways to build and to sell. It's incredible. I really feel like the opinion I had about remote work in 2017, I could see it coming. In next 10, maybe 5 years, I just feel that the smartest people won't go for any job, right? They just won't work for anyone. They'll just work for themselves. And I feel that's going to happen. It's bound to happen. Smartest people will not work for anyone in by 2030, I guess. And it's a really, really exciting time. So go figure that out and watch this Level CEOs podcast, which went live, I think, a couple of weeks ago. You'll get a ton to learn, but I'm really excited about this world as well.
And by the way, this podcast was only possible because of Mint Mobile. Because with Mint Mobile, first of all, that is my favorite career provider, favorite SIM card provider from the last 4 years in the US. And with Mint Mobile, currently they have a deal with just $15 per month. You can get everything unlimited text, unlimited calling, unlimited 5G in the US, which is usually much more expensive. 50% off right now, only if you check it out with the link in description below, and you can activate before coming to US, and it is eSIM compatible. So go right now to mintmobile.com/sync.
So that was the recruiting process, which is broken. Now the degrees which students are pursuing these days, that are also broken. So can you please shed light on like the importance of degree right now? As we just saw the data, the hype is reducing, and अभी माना जाता है कि I believe कि अगर कोई बच्चा boot camp लेता है within 1 to 2 years, they are more ready to work in an industry as compared to with a 4-year college degree.
I mean, it does have biases in it. So let me break it down. I mean, universities, I can go on talking about this for hours, but what is a university, right? Universities are hundreds of years of old concept. There was no internet. There was no way to verify if somebody says, I am good at XYZ skill, are you really good or are you not? So we came up with a system where a piece of paper, which we call a degree, verifies that you are good at this, right? That made sense because it was hard to verify if you're good at something, right? That held value. Now, anybody could be handing out this piece of paper to everyone, right? So the government had to intervene. And at some point, it most likely happened. You had people handing out degrees to you to get jobs, right? So government said that, okay, you need to be regulated, you need to have XYZ, you need to be structured as a trust or whatever, right? You can't be a for-profit business, so on and so forth. All the universities are crazy rich, but they're not businesses, right? So regulations came in, and then we said, okay, these are the people who can issue degrees, and these are the people who are good at issuing degrees, where best people go. So they developed reputation, Ivy League, so on and so forth, and those degrees became even more valuable. And as the market, so market is what decides if it's valuable or not. If the market is paying for it.
Very well said, and we can see the reality कि हर कोई degree handout कर रहा है. Because of that, it's most difficult for a fresh grad to get a job right now. They face 30% more difficulty than a person with 1 to 2 years of experience.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think like but you have to understand the business, right? Like and it makes sense that there are only certain institutions which can hand out degrees, and that's why they're in business, and it works, right? But yeah, so that's universities. But over a period of time, this piece of paper started losing value. Why? Because it can't change fast enough, right? And for example, what do you want to do? You want to be doing podcasts. You want to be a YouTuber. In fact, according to many surveys, that the most popular career choice right now is to be a YouTuber. Now tell me, how many universities have a course on how to be a good YouTuber? Last I checked, none, right? Why is that? Everybody wants to be a YouTuber. YouTubers are clearly successful. but we have zero courses on it, right? So I feel like that's the issue with universities, and YouTuber is just like one example. There are plenty of other examples, and look, some universities are better than others, right? Like I've seen a lot of AI courses at Stanford, right, which I was pretty impressed by. It's like they're able to change their curriculum a lot faster because of the systems they have, so on and so forth. But not all universities are able to adjust as quickly, right? So some could be good, some could be bad, but the reality is, that system was made for a pre-internet age. And in the internet age, we need faster ways to learn. I still believe that the smartest people can just learn from YouTube and go on, like if it's programming language, just read the documentation, see a bunch of lectures on YouTube and build something. And there you go, you know how to do something. So I think education is being democratized. I feel education will be free very soon, as it should be, as it should have always been. But that's, the issue with universities. And of course, I would hate to graduate from a good school with a 300K in debt. And at a point of time in my life when I should be taking maximum amount of risks, I have a 300K debt to pay off. So my next 5 years are just like gone worrying about that. And if you're doing any school, and if you're not from US, you're traveling, then you have like your work authorization for a couple of years, and you need to maximize that to make money, because in your home country that could be drastically less, and things like that. So like fresh graduates are not incentivized to take more risks, and I think those are some things which are broken when it comes to universities, right? Now let's come to the next aspect of it, boot camps, right?
Yes.
Look, boot camps that are offline and are high quality, I think they're amazing, right? And we started with boot camp, and a lot of people ridiculed us because we were offline and things like that. But our results were amazing, and people were getting great outcomes and things like that. And then COVID happened. And when we moved online for a short period of time, we continued to see those results. But over time, it just like constantly went down. We fought to, avoid that. But it didn't happen. And my conclusion was that boot camps, which are offline, works. Boot camps that are online does not work because the math doesn't work out, right? And I'll explain. Offline boot camps, you pay for something when you're in an environment, right, to learn. And that's something which I feel is valuable with a university as well, right? Like I would go back to university if I want to take like a couple of years of my life and do nothing and just learn. And if I have a lot of money, right? Like, because universities can be expensive, right? But if you get a scholarship and or if you can afford it, universities are great because that environment is amazing, right? So I feel when you're in an environment like that, it just like helps you. When everybody else around you comes in with the same mindset, wants to learn, you can collaborate and a million other things, right? So that environment matters a lot more. So I feel that boot camps like those are stable and are doing well. Now, when you take boot camps online, I have like a very sort of straightforward way of looking at this, right? Because I analyzed it as a business, and I think it won't work, right? Because I wanted to make education better, right? Not build a business. And I still believe a business can be built, and I'll explain how. But the business has to be a good business and sustainable business, and I don't think it would be sustainable. But anyways, so I'll tell you what happens when a bootcamp goes online, which happened with all bootcamps during COVID, and I think everybody burned. But what was the fundamental flaw in it? So when a bootcamp goes online, you have a selection bias. People who are great, who can learn by themselves, they don't need you. And that's the reality. The smartest people won't come to you because they don't need your help. And they're smart and they know how to learn. And that's good for them, right? They could learn from YouTube, and by reading documentation, they could build stuff and, just learn by themselves. So you will always get people who need help, right? And that's why bootcamps exist, and there's nothing wrong with it. But unfortunately, a lot of those people will not have the right kind of discipline and a lot of self-commitment and things like that, right? And if they had that, they would be good anyways, right? But those are the things which we need to learn. And when you're offline, it acts as a forcing function for a lot of those things, a lot of those soft skills. And when you're teaching those things offline, I've seen that it is a lot more absorbable. We have had like similar students who could really learn from us when we were offline. But the same things just did not translate when we were online, right? People would keep their cameras off and they would miss classes because they have a million things going on in their lives and things like that. The discipline is just hard to enforce, right? And when that happens, in reality, the drop-offs of Coursera and Udemy is well known. It's under 10, single digits. But nobody
3%.
cares.
Some courses have 3% completion rate. 100% students start the course and 3% finish from 0 to 100.
Right.
Insane.
You see, because it's hard to be disciplined. And that's the reality. We need to understand that if you are so disciplined that you could learn, if you had that commitment, you need a forcing function, right? Like we live in the age of so many distractions and most people are not disciplined, right? I struggled with discipline a few years ago in so many other aspects, right? So I think it's just hard. And for Coursera and a lot of other Udemy and a lot of other self-paced companies, I don't know what the exact number is, but it's definitely less than 10%. CBCs during COVID started getting a lot of adoption.
What is CBC?
Cohort-based courses. Right. So the assumption was that CBCs will end up getting significantly higher completion rates, but that was not true. And we used to run a free program, and then we thought that if we make it paid, then people will have more skin in the game, and then they will complete it. And we ran that program for 10 months, and it didn't work. And it's just hard to teach online, and it's hard to stay disciplined, right? So I think like online bootcamps, because of that, because the completion rates are less anyways, right? It doesn't work. Like the education doesn't get translated. It's hard to be a teacher there. So as a company, it'll be hard for me to recruit passionate teachers because people don't enjoy teaching online, right? Some of our best instructors in an online setup were not there, who would leave if they were there in offline setup, right? So I think that's an issue with online bootcamps, right? And the success ratio will always be less, and the failure ratio will always be high. And because of that, right, you will always end up generating bad rep online, almost every bootcamp in the world. And because of that, your CAC is going to increase, right? CAC is cost of acquisition for each customer. You'll have to spend more money on marketing. And because of that, the mathematics of online bootcamps just does not work, right? Like people end up paying anywhere between 30 to 50%. And this is like a very conservative number, right? 30 to 50%, very conservative. It could actually work in this number, right? 30 to 50% of course value goes to just Facebook or in marketing. And after COVID in 21, 2, 3, I've even seen companies spending 200% on CAC, which was absolutely nuts, right? 2 to 300% was being spent only on cost of acquisition, only on marketing to make people buy courses, and it did not make sense, right? That is why a lot of online bootcamps struggled, and I feel that a lot of education companies scaled beyond where they should have scaled, right? Like it's beyond PMF. Without PMF, they just scaled because of a lot of venture money coming in or a variety of reasons that shouldn't have happened, right? Now, how do we make this work? The way it works is...
Once again, I think before making it work, I think one of the statements is kind of contradictory. You say that remote work has scope, but remote cohorts, remote boot camps don't have as much scope because some people are actually able to make out big with Panchezari courses in India and online boot camps.
You answered it yourself. Some people. Look, every 100 people you put in any course... some people will succeed. My argument is not here that it's useless. It's of course not useless. There are incredible people who are passionate about teaching. They're leaving their jobs. They're well off to help people out of passion, right? So some people are definitely having outcomes, and that is what's keeping them engaged. But that's some people. right?
True.
And I feel that if the percentage was higher than 50 to 70%, it would be a good business. But I think it's lower than that, and that's why it's a bit challenging, right? So yeah, and though some people are disciplined and they are able to actually take advantage of it, so they're doing well. There will always be people like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do we fix it? What's the ideal, you think, education system we can bring out to the students? College degrees are expensive. Online boot camps have success rate of less than 50% or even single digit sometimes, as we said. And so what's the fix?
So I think I did a lot of research on this. I was like, it was very challenging time for me, but I did some research to figure out how this can work. And I still don't believe in this. That is why we did not take that path. But how do we make this work? The way we make this work is how a university functions today. So my bet is I feel that more and more education companies are going to try and become universities again, right? And the reason why they'll try and become universities again is because people don't, skill over degrees is a very obvious thing. Everybody gets it, right? But I'll tell you what people don't get. What people don't get, an insider view, is that people don't buy skills, they buy degrees. If I have to sell skills, my CAC would be significantly higher than what I have to do to sell degrees. Every single year, okay, I'll give you a rough maths. Every single year, how many people do you think are in the market to get a degree?
Majority, certificates, degrees, 80%, 90%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody. I don't know what the number is in US. In India, it's over a crore, right? That money has to go somewhere, right? And that's a large TAM, right? And that's why universities work. And majority of universities, I can't start naming them, but Ivy Leagues in US, the best of universities in India, like all universities, right? Especially if they're private. All universities, I'll tell you how they make money. The business is you basically have an offline program where you're able to get a selection bias, right? Like you have a selection bias, you make people apply and you choose the best people so they can also contribute equally to what you're contributing in this setup, right? And if you have good instruction, good quality instructors, great curriculum and things like that, and great students, then it's going to work. You will have a successful cohort, right? So universities or programs like these, if they have a small cohort which has a strong selection bias, which is what Pesto was when we started, we could see a great outcome, right? And I think Pesto was, if we did not beat ISB, we were very close to beating them. Back in the day, our average comp was roughly around 30 lakhs outcome when we were offline. And I was like hell bent on it, right? I worked really hard. I used to work 18, 20 hours a day to make sure that happens. And I was very passionate about really making that happen. And those were good times. We had to work really hard, but we made it happen. So when you're offline, you can have those good outcomes. And universities today do that, right? They basically have an offline program where people can get the same outcome. But the way businesses work, and I can tell you based on my research, I won't name people because I don't want to sort of throw brands under. But majority of these universities, the biggest names that you have heard, have offline programs where good people come in and they have good outcomes, but that helps build the brand. And then they sell online programs, right, to people who are already working, not students, people who are already working because their paying capacity is higher, right? And they would sell like a week program, a month program, a summer program, a this program, a that program. And these programs will be brutally expensive. And when people are buying those programs, they are not buying skills. Like, I don't need an MBA. I got an MBA trying to build my business, right? That's my MBA. But if I want, I can get a brand behind my name let's say I went ahead and I love Stanford. I get like a degree from Stanford, right? Or something their online program. It makes me feel good, right? So the reality is that people buy degrees, right? When that degree has a certain brand, and the amount of money that universities make from online programs is significantly more, like 2 to 3 times more than what they make from offline at a fraction of the cost. Like there is the cost is very, very low when they look at online, right? So I feel education companies have two paths, in which I'll feel in coming years or even already we might be seeing that education companies will see two kinds of outcomes. One, they become sales engine of these universities where you're selling online programs by XYZ universities so that people can get value. And those do have value, but for limited people, right? Like I said, it's not useless. But if you look at the numbers, the completion rates, the outcomes, it's useful for a fraction of people, right? So either education companies will become sales engines of these university programs, which does deliver value, but not to everyone, or they will become universities itself.
Very well said. When we look at boot camps ads, वहाँ पे बड़ा बड़ा लिखा होता है, we have placed students in Facebook, Google, Jane Street, etc. But they do not talk about percentage of placement. But some universities do. I think that's the model, as you mentioned, needs to be brought up in the boot camps and online courses. And once the business and the vision is to place maximum students as compared to just build a business and place few students, then things will change. Very well said. And being a college dropout, can you share what were the shortcomings you felt when you were in a college degree program, and what inspired you to drop out?
I used to work on different things, and even in my school, like I grew up in Varanasi, and I always say it was like growing up on the internet. I used to have this dial-up connection back in 2006, and used to read Digit a lot and all these magazines. And I was really like, I think since 2007, I was like really excited about the internet age. And I used to build websites and things like that, go in competitions, sell it to people and things like that, right? So when like my style of doing something is to just interview a lot of people. I feel like before you do something, interviewing 20 people who have done it before gives you all the answers you want, right? Let's say you want to start a new business and customer interviews, right? If you want to disrupt a large business, right? Go and interview their customers. They'll tell you everything there is, right? And you have to learn the art of interviewing, which is important. Like if you have to conduct customer interviews, I recommend reading Mom Test. If you want to be better at interviewing candidates for a role, read this book called The Who Interview. But I think if you're good at interviewing, you learn a lot. So I hadn't read these books back in the day, but I liked talking to people who have done things before. And I spoke to randomly a lot of people who have taken college degrees and things like that. And everybody hated it. They were like, it was 4 years wasted and things like that. And I was like, well, I don't want to waste that time. And my parents were not, let's just say the idea of being a dropout was absolutely crazy in 2013, 14. And my parents were really scared. So I just did not tell them. I started taking trips to SF, started working with companies and things like that. And just got started. I'd say I just thought I'll give myself a couple of years. It was depressing. I had phases where it was brutally tough. I do not recommend people to drop out without having a plan, because it will be tough for you. But I like being tough on myself, so I just did it anyways. And it was tough, but I think I got to learn a ton.
How much do you resonate with Naval? Naval Ravikant, right? So his tweets are very famous. So, his tweet, for example, is a taste of freedom can make you unemployable. So he always pressurizes that कि अगर peaceful job है आपके पास, that doesn't mean you're free. If you're controlled by someone every single time, that doesn't mean you're free. And you chose the path of freedom. How much do you resonate that, being your own boss has given you peace, freedom?
I think I never want to be my own boss. like being your own boss is the worst idea. Trust me, because you have all the problems, right? So it's not the right way to think about anything, right? And okay, I'll tell you who is your boss, right? Like you're working somewhere, or did you quit already, or are you working at a company?
No, I'm working. I mean,
You're working somewhere, right? Okay, so I'll tell you, you have two bosses, right? You have somebody who is your manager, probably, and you also have subscribers, right? And whatever number of subscribers you have, they are your boss, right? So your customers are your boss, and the market is your boss. And I'll tell you something: your managers will have some empathy. The market won't. The market will trash you if you have the slightest bit of ego. I always say that, it's very hard to have any kind of ego if you're a founder. And that's the best thing about being a founder. You have zero ego, because either your ego survives or your business does. Both can't coexist, right? So I feel it's a very humbling experience. And if you're being a founder to be your own boss, just don't do it. It'll be more painful than you can ever imagine. Yeah, but anyway, so I did not start up because I wanted to be my own boss. I just want to build something really cool and make a difference. That's it, right? If whatever, like Facebook tells me that here's the next thing which changes the world, do that, right? Like, and I feel inspired to do that, I'll go do it, right? So I feel it's and actually that might be better because I have less constraints, right? So I think it's important to learn how to operate without constraints. With constraints. So I think it's better to operate with constraints. It gives you a different kind of creativity and a lot of skills you develop when you operate long enough with a lot of constraints. And then when you get the resources, it's just like gives you so much freedom, and you can be a lot more impactful. So I think do things to create that impact. Figure out what makes you tick and chase it like anything else.
But we also need to warn students जो college छोड़ के startup करना चाहते हैं at the age of 15 to 18. And I think you mentioned that in startup, like it's like a sine wave. Low is always the lowest. The high point is always the highest. So can you prepare the audience for the lowest point of your life? Was it the time when you were in Delhi, जब आप 18 घंटे काम करते थे and used to sleep in that incubator?
Oh, that was not. Far from it. It was such a high time. Look, I feel like looking back, it feels like, I used to live in a co-working space and be there overnight, go home at 7 a.m. and, all these things. And it feels like, oh, you were struggling, you were hustling and all that. I was having the time of my life. I was having so much fun that I can't even tell you, right? It always looks bad looking backwards or hustling or whatever, right? Like I was just enjoying, right? And like that. But I think that the thing which you're talking about is not just true for startups. I feel that's just life. Like my biggest learning has been life is like a sine wave, right? And every single time you have a high, you basically, the way to visualize it is growing up, the first time you won something, you felt very happy, right? Let's say you were first in class, or let's say you were second in class, right? Now, next time you're second in class, it won't too much for you. You have to be first in class. Okay. Next 3 years, you're first in class. Now, the same person is third in class or second in class. Next time, it won't give you as much happiness. Or even if you're first in class. No, it happened before. Now you want to score a perfect 100 or 100, right? So life constantly, sort of, you need a higher high to achieve the same level of happiness. And as you grow up, you get your first paid customer when you launch a business. It gives you a lot of happiness. But then suddenly you do $500,000 in revenue. New customers don't do anything for you. Now you need $1 million. When you get your first million, very high. Second million, not so much, right? So every single time you need a higher high to be happier, right? Similarly, every single time in life, you need a lower low, right? Let's say you have a very deep low and you survive that. Next time something happens, which is a low point, you'll be like, it's okay, I can handle this, right? And as you go on, and as you keep collecting a higher high and a lower low, a higher high makes you more ambitious to do more in life, right? And a lower low makes you stronger. And as you collect higher highs and lower lows, this is what we call experience. And you become wiser as time goes, right? And I feel most creative people are just curious to explore more. So they're constantly chasing higher highs, lower lows, and people who have collected most of them look wise on the other end. But they're just like humans with more higher highs and lower lows than you, right? So I think our focus should be the next high. And if you get a lower low, you should just remember that it's just going to make you stronger.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ayush. Gained a lot of wisdom from this podcast and meeting you as always. I hope this video helps out, and please check out Pesto for your next remote job. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, good catching up, and thanks for hosting me. I'm sorry it took forever to make this happen. I know I've been procrastinating on this, but glad to be here.
No, never too late. Thank you again.
I just wanna be your Superman. Come fly with me, just take
Bye.